Everybody, thank you for tuning in for our 5th episode of Something Something with Eric Newman. I'm Eric Newman, and today I want to discuss social media dating. That's a loose term I've devised and created in the lab, which is my desk that's right next to my bed, touching my bed in my apartment. That's the lab for future reference if it ever comes up again. I always say for future reference and previously, and it turns out when I look back, I've never said it before. But anyway, Something Something with Eric Newman. Here we are, episode 5. Social media dating. I call it social media dating because, well, I mean, it is a way to start dating, and a very common way. Let's focus on Instagram here because I do consider Instagram to be sort of the central hub of your profile as an internet person. Like I use TikTok, I use Facebook, I use YouTube, all that stuff, but it kind of feels like you're like in a deep exploration in social media space, and then Instagram feels like home for some reason. I don't know if it's because it came first. I don't know. It just feels like that is your home. Like when I'm on Instagram, I'm like, okay, this is my home. And then when you're on the other apps, it kind of feels like you're just traveling a little bit, but to different destinations. So I would call Instagram my home, TikTok my second home, Facebook my third home. Facebook was my first home, but I've just lost a little love for it, and so now I'm an Instagram guy. Anyway, this was a waste of a explanation, but let's get into our central theme here. Instagram. Yeah, it sort of made dating easier and harder. It certainly made dating more complicated. And here's what I want to start with. The idea that personally, I try to avoid, if I'm romantically interested in someone, like outside of friendships and business relationships and all this stuff, which could blossom into romantic relationships, but we're neglecting that for one moment. We are just solely focusing on relationships that start with a romantic intention. I try to personally avoid following girls on Instagram as much as I possibly can. And here's the reason why. Back in the day, when you dated someone and it ended, outside of potentially running into them at like a public place once in a while, or if you're in the same friend group and you see them at parties or something, you had no dealings with that person after it ended. You end the relationship, you end whatever was turning into a relationship or on its way to being a relationship. That's done, and you don't have to see them again, and you can move on with your life. And now social media, Instagram, has made that much more challenging because you're connected to one another. And I try to avoid putting myself in the position to get connected with someone until there's actually a connection, whatever that means. Now, obviously, listen, I've been dating forever. I've gone through a million different experiences with this. Everything I say is completely contradictory to some other experience I've had in the past, but this is the decision I've arrived at now based on all my previous experiences. So I try not to follow a girl on Instagram as much as I can help it. Now, sometimes I'll get a DM from someone, and it's like a really nice DM, and they seem pleasant and fun, and they have a private profile. Now, here's the thing. I'd love to exist in a world where looks didn't matter to me. They do. I tried. I don't personally believe in this whole like love is blind thing. I think the connection is extremely important. Well, no, physical attraction. They both work in tandem with one another. The connection becomes deeper when you also want to fuck someone. So like it's sort of hard to separate them completely. But when we're talking about romantic prospects, so this love is blind thing, I don't buy it at all. I tried the love is blind thing recently a little bit. So like this girl DM'd me after a show, and she had a private profile, and she had one picture that I could kind of see, but she was sort of far away, but she looked cute, and we started DMing, and then I got her number, and I didn't follow her and request her permission to see her profile because I kind of wanted to live in this bizarre world for a moment where, someone had talked about Love is Blind very recently, and I was like, well, let me see if the connection, let me try something new. And I always want to try something new. I'm very eager to learn other styles and other approaches and whatever. And I'm 37 and single, so clearly I've done a lot wrong. So I'm always trying to improve. But I talked to this girl, we have a great connection, and we start texting, and she's witty and she's fun, and then we start doing late night phone calls, which I never really do that early on. And I was really enjoying, and she had a cute voice, and I was really enjoying talking to her, and we made plans to go out, and within 2 minutes of getting there, I was like, I don't have no desire to kiss this woman. Nothing. And we had already built up a connection. So in theory, it sounds romantic and wonderful that, oh my God, I have no idea what this person looks like, and we're building this connection. But in reality, like, I don't think a relationship is sustainable in any type of healthy or sexy way if you don't want to have sex with one another. I'm not saying that can't happen. You can build this connection, but imagine you talk listen, if I talk to a woman for 10 years on the phone and we have the deepest, greatest connection of my life, and I don't know what she looks like, and then we meet up, she doesn't necessarily have to be like objectively like model hot or whatever you consider to be like beautiful, physically, but I have to want to have sex with her. And so I didn't want to have sex with this woman. So I think that only proves my point further that connection only goes so far without physicality involved, without physical, desire, physical attraction, whatever. So that proves I'm shallow. That's the thesis of this entire thing. But yeah, outside of the private profile thing, which is a loophole, by the way, I really try to stay away from a woman's social media in general. Like, first of all, there's this old quote I love, and I try to incorporate it in my life as much as possible. It's what happens behind your back is none of your business. I love that. Because like we're all like sort of desperately seeking, or a lot of us are at times are desperately seeking like information that we're not privy to, and it's not my business. If I meet someone in person, and guys, if you are meeting women in person, you're listening to my podcast, so thank you. I'm not saying not look them up. I know it's tempting. If you want to do a Google search or something, fine. I understand more so on the female end why you'd want to look up the Instagram and all that, because, there's definitely more safety factors when it pertains to you dating a man than the other way around. So, like, you want to make sure he, like, I don't know, make sure he's not, like, on the sex offenders list, or, like, just got out of 20 years in jail for killing his stepfather or skinning his cat or whatever. Like, I think that's information that you should know. But outside of those, like, basic facts, I think, like, stay off social media. If you meet someone in person, if you exchange numbers, which I always recommend trying to exchange numbers first, as I've said on previous episodes. I keep saying as I've said on previous episodes with actually no knowledge or memory if I've actually said them on previous episodes, but it sounds so cool. As I said on previous episodes very confidently, social media will amplify whatever persona you have, right? So like you'll oftentimes you're showcasing the most exaggerated version of whoever you are, or sometimes it's someone completely different. So if I meet someone and I get their number, and sometimes people, women will be a little more weary and they'll say, follow me on Instagram, which is like, I always think, I'm like, okay, is this like a brush off and she just wants another follower, or is this like a genuine interest in trying to get to know me? You'll never really know in that case. I generally, in that specific instance, will just DM her instead of just following, because I don't know what the point of following is. It's like you're saying, hey, I'm here, I'm supportive, I want to be all in, and I want to look at everything that's going on in your life because I've known you for 2.5 minutes. Like I just don't see the upside of that. So if you meet in an organic way and you get the number, me personally, I just want to get to know the person, and I want to know, and I want to see what they let me see, and I want to learn what they want me to learn. I don't think you should be trying to do all this like research and figure out, again, when it comes to safety and all that stuff, I get it. But outside of those parameters, like, find out who the person is one-on-one. You don't have to go on their social media and see some video that you hate, and then you go on a date with them and you're thinking about that video. Like, I'm not saying like, shy away from what's going on. I just feel like in the early stages of dating, the only objective is to get to know the person that is presented. And then as you keep going, like you'll naturally follow each other and all that stuff, and you'll find out information when information is meant to be, delivered to you. Not in this like, contrived, forced way of just like, I've known a person for 1 minute and now I'm going to do a 7-hour deep dive through their social media to like figure out how they think, what they're putting out there, whatever. I don't love that. And here's the thing. I spend a lot of time myself. Maybe I'm doing this because I don't want women looking at my social media immediately before getting to know me, because like I put out like outrageous versions of myself on social media every day because it's like a big part of my job. And I would just rather a girl like when a girl asks me my Instagram, I always say I'm like you can look at it, but like I would prefer like I'll just make a joke like don't look at that like I don't want whatever. But I mean, they can. I'm not putting anything up there that I'm ashamed that a girl would see. I just like would rather us have like more of an organic connection and like build. Also, you're kind of putting yourself in a position where you're like inflicting more pain for no reason. And I say this because like if you're like texting with a girl and she like doesn't respond for 12 hours or whatever, I think initially your thoughts are probably like, oh, she's busy or she's doing something or she's working or whatever. But then like if you're also following her on social media and then she doesn't respond for 10 hours and then you see her like, posting stories of her like plucking flowers in the park, you're like, fuck you. You didn't have 1 second between each plucked flower to just write back to me for 2 seconds, and you're driving yourself fucking crazy. So why? Now, by the way, this is probably a larger and deeper discussion of like control your emotions and like don't get caught up in all these emotional flare-ups when involved with another person, and be strong and confident and whatever. Sure. But you could also mitigate. Ali, is that a word? Yeah. This is why Ali's here. Shout out to Ali. Mitigate the pain, the experiences that may inflict more unnecessary discomfort and whatever. Well, I think like oftentimes in the early stages, and I think women will do this a lot, and I don't know if we definitely talked about this in the previous episode. Previously on Something with Eric Newman. Eric discussed texting. So I think like there is some level of pretend always, right? You can't come out like that's my whole point too, Zoran, is like, you can't come out immediately. The reason why also this sort of ties into the whole point I'm making is that like, if you check people's social media, you're getting access to the most exaggerated versions of themselves when you're supposed to kind of be pretending a little and putting on an act and slowly giving information, because that's exciting. That's what the courting process is. It's like, oh, I just found out this thing. Oh, I just found out this thing. Oh, I found out that. Fuck. But like, it's too like polarizing, I think, to have access to that amount of information on a person that you haven't even had a coffee with yet. So like, to me, there's like an imbalance. So I don't love that. But yeah, what happens behind your back is none of your business. What happens when she's plucking flowers in the park and not responding to your texts is none of your fucking business. And by the way, she can follow you. Like, it's not, it doesn't equate fully. Like, if a girl you meet looks you up on social media and follows you, that's 100% fine. That's her choice. That's her decision. Everybody has responsibility for their own lives. And by the way, she can follow you. If you meet a girl and she follows you on Instagram 5 minutes later, she has every right to. She can do that. That doesn't mean you have to follow her back. And I'm not meaning it in a game playing type of way. I'm just like, everybody's responsible for their own lives, right? So, if she wants to get immersed in your world right away, I wouldn't suggest it or recommend it for her. And honestly, like, it's happened to me before, and I'm like, fuck, why are you following me? Like, we just like met and had a nice, pleasant conversation. Let's keep getting to know each other. Like, you don't have to see all these videos, like, and crowd work clips of me asking a couple in the crowd, like, if they've tried anal. Like, you don't have to see that. You don't have to know that, because that's one glimpse of who I am. And I just would rather us get a nice, pleasant cup of coffee and take a nice walk and get to know each other without all of that. Again, it's a little bit more of a blend now, right? With like personal and professional lives, where it's like my Instagram is personal, but it's also professional, and you know, so it's a tough, it's a little bit of a gray area, but yeah, I would just prefer us getting to know each other. And by the way, you can say that, like if she ever calls you out on it and says like, why didn't you follow me back? Like, what the fuck? You could be like, oh, I don't mean to be rude or whatever. I just like, I would prefer to just get to know you, and like I don't really want to get immersed in our social media world, you know, as much as I just want to get to know you like outside of that. And if she gets like, and most women will understand that, I think. Like it's a pretty sound, you know, logically sound argument, you know, and if they don't, then great. Look what you just found out. You just found out someone, you know, doesn't sort of respect your boundaries. And I hate using the word boundaries because it's so overused. I wish I can go through this entire podcast without using toxic or boundaries, but like unfortunately, like I can't think of better substitutes, so I'm just going to keep going for it. But like you'll find out right there that someone doesn't respect your boundaries, and there you go. Then it was great. It's great that you're not following them and then have to unfollow them. That's annoying. It just feels weird when you follow someone and then unfollow them. Like, I don't know, emotionally. It's not like I'm really about them. I just like, I don't like how it makes me feel uneasy. But listen, I've been in so many dating scenarios where we end up following each other. Obviously, you inevitably do, and then we'll stop dating. And this is where it gets tricky, right? She breaks it off, or I do. It's never mutual, by the way, because I never think anything is fully mutual. And I kind of hate when people say that, because it feels like if you ask someone, oh, who broke up with who? And they go, it was mutual. You're either like, okay, they're not wanting to look bad, so they're framing it as mutual, even though they got broken up with, or they're the person who was like the initiator of the breakup and feels guilty about it and doesn't want to put out there that energy, like I broke up with them, I hurt them, I broke their heart, or whatever. So it's always just feels like kind of a cover-up. It's never mutual. There's never been two people in history that ever looked at each other at the exact same time and said, I'm out, you're out? Okay, great. It just doesn't happen. At least not at the emotional core of the relationship. You know, there's one person kind of wanting to get out more than the other person. So assuming that, you know, her and I broke up, you know, mutually, and by that I mean like peacefully, right? Which I've had very few of those. There's always huge drama when I fucking go through a breakup, dude. I can't go through like a peaceful, like, you know what that means? The sex was great. Let me tell you something. The more you guys hate each other, the better the sex was. And that's my fucking final stance on that, man. I am proud to say that all my exes hate me. That's some good dick. Sorry, Allie. Fuck, Allie, you know, there's a woman here and I can't be myself. Okay, sorry. Allie's giving me looks. Okay, we're cutting that. Anything that makes me look bad on this podcast will be cut. So everything I say. Yeah. So the podcast is scrapped. We're done. Okay. If I go through like a breakup that, you know, maybe we're together officially, maybe we're not, maybe it's getting there. Maybe we've just, you know, dated for, you know, we went on 10 dates. Maybe we just hooked up for a couple weeks. Whatever the case may be, if we break up and it's like peaceful, like there's not like all this animosity and like bad blood, most of the time I'll just mute them. Like I don't feel that, you know, to me, mute is your best friend, man. Use it as fucking much as you possibly can, because you're not making a statement. Like the problem with unfollow is it's such a statement. Like this girl I was dating for a couple months, she broke up with me. It was mutual, but she initiated it. Basically, I had a cold sore on my lip. Well, I haven't talked about this yet. I talked about it on stage a little. And I had a cold sore on my lip, and she's such a hypochondriac. She spent a day FaceTiming me crying about it. She was like, I've been reading all about it and whatever. And I felt bad. I was like, God, I don't want her to feel this way. But I was also like, okay, this is also kind of a sign of immature. I was like, you probably have it. Like 75% of the population gets them. Like you probably have it and it just hasn't come out yet or whatever. And she's like, I don't have it. And I was like, you went to Florida State. You definitely have it. So part of me was like, okay, you're being a fucking baby. But I tried to be empathetic and I was like, look, she's obviously feeling bad about it. Even if I think it's a complete overreaction, she's hurt and she's upset. And then I said, look, do you want to just break up? Like, I don't want you to feel like I don't want you to be uncomfortable, like when it comes to dating me or whatever. Like, I want, you know, and I'll feel uncomfortable too. So it just doesn't work out for anyone. So I said, do you want to date up? She's like, it would be so sad. I haven't felt this connection in so long. And I'm like, life's sad sometimes. It's fine. Anyway, she breaks up because that's what she wanted. And then like for the next like 2 months, she made like 2 or 3 attempts on text to like kind of, I don't know what it was, either to like, she sent me inside jokes. So it was either like rekindle, maybe, or it was just like to get attention, maybe to like feel it out, see where I'm at, whatever it is. And I don't know, I kind of just got rubbed the wrong way. And I really liked her, but like I really didn't like how it all played out. And I thought it was just like an immense overreaction and like maybe signs that like we're not at the same emotional place in life and whatever. And like, you know, maybe she has to go get, you know, a cold sore and then come back to me. Like whatever. Like I don't know. The point was I kind of just wasn't that interested anymore. But I liked her. I thought she was a cool person. Every time she wrote to me, I like wrote back something like fun and like I was light and it was still like good vibes, I thought. And then all of a sudden she unfollowed me. And I was like, okay, maybe she's doing it to make a statement. Maybe she wants me to see it and then to reach out to her. Here's what I do when a woman I was romantically involved with unfollows me. You ready? I block her. I fucking block her. Here's why. We're not playing this game. Now, I got into a debate with a friend recently who said like, oh, I said that to them. I said, I block them. If they unfollow me, I block them. And she was like, oh, you're playing games. You're trying to be more vindictive than she is. I'm like, I'm really not. There's definitely a part of me that's annoyed about the unfollow because I think it's just such a blatant attempt to like hurt me and like be a dick. Because if you don't want to see my stuff, just mute me again. And then in a year from now, if you have a boyfriend, you could like quietly unfollow me. But to do it so soon after the breakup is such a statement to me that my statement back is, okay, you're done with me, I'm done with you. But I mean it. Like, I'm not like, we're not playing this game of like unfollow, follow, unfollow, follow. We're done. And that's okay. Because I don't want you to have the ability, I have a public profile, I don't want you to have the ability to go back and like watch my stories. My ex, my ex almost fiance, who I've definitely spoken about in previous episodes, she texted me after we broke up and said, hey, I just wanted to let you know that I'm unfollowing you because it's going to be too painful to see your stuff. And I said, okay, thanks for the heads up, great. And then a number of times throughout the next couple weeks, she would like watch my stories and I'm like, okay, mixed messages, like you're confused, but I'm done. So I don't want to give anybody the ability to like come back and creep on my page and it's weird. And this seems to be a thing that like people do, like women I've noticed, I don't really pay attention to men. So like they don't exist to me except my producer Zoran. But women tend to do this a lot. Like I've noticed the pattern of this of like, oh, I reject you and then I watch your stories a lot. And like, it really doesn't mean anything. Like what I've learned to understand about it is that it doesn't have any significance in like your romantic future. Like a woman can purely just wanna like, she just like is like bored and like wants to see what you're up to or like liked that you sparked some type of drama on your page and so she wants to keep up with that or just see what you're up to. Is he dating anybody? Whatever. Like my whole thing is like if we end like and you don't want to see my stuff, fine. You are more than welcome to mute me. That option is always available to you. But when you unfollow me, to me, that is just you telling me fuck off and that's it. And so I then respond with, okay, then that's it. I don't exist in your world. There's nothing else that has to be done here. And at the end of the day, I just have to do what's best for me. So like if someone, tells me they don't want to be with me, then I have to just take my life back into my own hands and be like, that's fine, but I have to move on and I have to move on in a way that is healthy for me. So I don't believe that like staying in someone's orbit after things are truly finished. And let me tell you something, man. I've blocked girls after they've unfollowed me, and I have heard from them again by text 6 months later, a year later. Like, again, social media is separate from texting and meeting in person. It's different. The girl who unfollowed me and I blocked, I think, I try to analyze things as best as I can, and I spent a lot of time analyzing this particular one, and I think what pissed her off was the fact that when she made those attempts post-breakup to talk to me, I didn't try to chase her. I didn't try to get her back. I just was like nice and pleasant and responded back to whatever she sent me. And I think that probably got her mad because she had told me before we broke up, she had told me about an ex-boyfriend she was with for 2 years. She hadn't They hadn't been together for a year and a half. The guy continues to hit her up and tells her that he misses her dog. He's like, I miss your dog. When can I see your dog? And I'm like, bro. I'm like, you seem like such a fucking desperate loser. And the dog was cute, by the way. I can attest the dog was adorable. But the dog is attached to the person. If it was your dog also, fine. I can't begin to really understand the emotional attachment to like an animal that you know, helped raise or whatever, even though they were together for 2 years. But once the relationship is done, the relationship is done. So it's like you can have those memories of missing the dog, but to use it as ammo to try to see the girl, or like as an obvious like ploy of like, oh, I want to get back with this girl, but I know like I'll get to her sensitive side through expressing how much I love her dog because she loves her dog. Like, that's emotional manipulation to me. I'm not saying he didn't really love the dog. I'm just saying, like, what a bad move, dude. And she was literally telling me this story, and it looked like she was sitting on a throne while she was doing it. She was like, oh my God, he like always texts me about how much he misses my dog and blah, 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 blah. So he's actually going to babysit my dog when I'm going away for 2 weeks. And I was like, oh my God, this fucking guy who's still in love with her is about to babysit this dog for her for 2 weeks. I'm like, dude, you got to just let it go. So having those experiences that she's had with that guy, I could understand where maybe after her and I stopped, and it wasn't nearly as serious a relationship as the one she had before, but like I could see where she would be thrown off. Like, wait, hold on. So I just break up with this guy and it's broken off? Like, I don't understand. I get that. But I don't think a lot of guys do that. And I think that women try to reconcile with that. And I think it's challenging a lot of the time. But like, that's how I feel about breakups. In general, I mean, there's always exceptions, dude. Always exceptions. But in general, especially if it didn't start as a friendship beforehand, that's it. A romantic involvement is done. I'm not going to meet you, get romantically involved, break up with you, and then start a business with you. I don't know what to say, man. Dog was cute, though. I miss her dog, too, man. I do. I fucking miss her dog, too. Buy your own fucking dog, dude. So here's like what I think has been known now is like breadcrumbing to some extent, is like sort of just giving a little attention, trying to bait the person in to give you attention. So this happens on social media all the time, right? It's like so popular. It happens every day. And when I'm in a conversation with a woman that I'm romantically interested in, I try to set up a date as quickly as possible. The less time you can spend texting, DMing, the better. I make my intentions known pretty quickly. I try to set up a date. I then do the research and come back with an idea. And then unless she opposes it, that's what we're doing. And so that's sort of where I stand with that. But so social media makes things a little complicated. Like let's say you are following each other on social media and you haven't spoken for whatever reason, you haven't DM'd, and then the girl replies to one of your stories or likes one of your stories. So I never think things happen for no reason. I'm not this it just didn't mean anything. I think everything always means something, whether the person who's doing it is aware of what it means or not, or on a conscious level. That's a different argument. But if a girl replies to your story, even heart emojis it or anything, the underlying message is, I'm here and I want you to know. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're romantically interested. But at the very least, they want you to be aware of the fact that they just liked your story or replied to your story. So there's some level of interest of them there's some level of them wanting your attention, no matter what. At the baseline, there is some level of that. So, if a girl follows me on Instagram and I don't know her, and then she replies to my story and I look at her, I'm like, oh, this girl's really pretty. Let me I'll write back, whatever I come up with. I don't know what it is. It'll probably be brilliant and clever. And then we'll talk. And if I'm liking the vibe, then I'll say, hey, do you want to go for a drink sometime? And then if she doesn't respond leaves me unread, doesn't even open it. Obviously, like everybody knows that you could still read it without opening it, and rejects me, that's it. That's fine. But take the bait the first time. Like if you're interested, take the bait. And then if she rejects you or like curves you and then it really was just to get your attention, or she wants to play games. Maybe she's going through a breakup and she needs like a self-esteem boost and like just wants a guy that she thinks is cute to like ask her out. Just wants to know that a guy is interested. That could have been it. That could be where her like mission ends. But you'll never know if you don't try. I don't want to be, listen, do you want to be on your deathbed in 50 years from now and think, oh my God, if I had just had the courage to ask that girl out who heart emoji'd my story that one time 50 years ago, maybe I wouldn't be laying here dying all alone. No, you don't. You want to go for it, man. But my whole thing is there is like a huge divide between like getting your attention and having genuine interest, and that's, I think, pretty clear just through life experiences. And like the only way you really know that difference is if you make a move and initiate, after her initial initiation. Just don't make the same mistake twice. If you take the bait once and then she ignores you, don't do it again. Now you know that this has become a pattern. Okay. This is a huge thing. Pictures of an ex on your social media. Look, there's always, again, like every situation's different, and there's obviously a case to be made for some circumstances in which I would support it or encourage it. But like, I was talking to a girl and I wanted to ask her out, and I saw like 4 pictures in a row from like a year ago of her with a guy, and I didn't see any more recent ones. So I was like, okay, well maybe she's not with him anymore. I don't know exactly what's going on. And when we spoke, she said, oh, I just felt bad taking them down. It's like, fucking take them down, man. Like, you're not doing anybody a favor unless like that's the last person you want to date in your life. If you're like a widower and you're like, this is my soulmate and we're each other's for eternity and I will never top this, fine. Like if Rose from Titanic, played by Kate Winslet, had an Instagram page after the Titanic sank, like, I get how she'd put pictures on her Instagram from the trip, like honestly, it probably would have been too soon because they only had like a 4-day fling, but But maybe you have a pic of them like at the edge of like the Titanic, where they're doing that like flying thing or whatever. Like that would be like a nice photo, I think. Maybe like a suggestive pic, not too suggestive, but like of them in the car before they had sex. Like maybe she just takes a picture. Remember when Jack's like in the front seat pretending to drive and she's in the back? Maybe she gets a picture of him like, from the back or whatever before like pulling him in and they, and they took each other's virginities. But it would be funny if Cal, the fiance who she was cheating on the whole time, like just like looks on his Instagram and he's like 19 minutes ago she was on this part of the ship, like it's like, where is she? Anyway, she said she'd never let go, so maybe that's the one case where you leave him up. He died, he drowned, you were somewhat responsible for it. Whether you like it or not, you were somewhat responsible for it, Rose. Okay, I know this has been done many, many times throughout in pop culture, but there was so much room on that door. So much room. And so you were partially responsible for his death, and you have that guilt. And so if Instagram existed at the time and you want to keep some photos up, for a long time of him, and that helps you with your healing process, I totally get that. But outside of that one example, I think women just take your ex-boyfriends off there. You're discouraging guys. And by the way, if a guy tries to hit on you thinking that is your boyfriend, then that's the wrong guy anyway. So, you get to weed out those, assholes also. The point is, get to know people when you're getting romantically involved with someone, get to know them in person, one-on-one, not as like an audience member on Instagram, not as a user of a platform that they're expressing their most exaggerated selves for. Just let's get to know people in person. And that's the message of this. Thank you so much for tuning in to our 5th episode of Something with Eric Newman. I'm Eric Newman. Shout outs to Ali, who's a studio producer, Ronaldo, who's also here at the studio. John, our producer, couldn't make it today. Zoran, our DP, is here. He was the one who's going to get a mic from now on, and he brought along Anthony, who will also be one of our videographers at some point down the road. I'm Eric Newman. Thank you for tuning in from Times Square.